Well, I changed my mind, as I do often when I really don't think things through well enough. Since I put the frogs and the catfish and the otos in this 10-gallon tank, I've been checking the water parameters, and I think it's been there's slight amount of ammonia each time I tested the water. And at first I thought it might be the filter that I had used. I had gotten a new one, a Cascade 300. So I tried taking that out and putting in a sponge filter with the canisters that I've used before. And still there was a little less ammonia when I tested it later after doing that. And so I figured it's probably just overstocked. You know, too many. I have 6 catfish, 2 otocinclus, 2 adult frogs, and 4 little teeny tiny baby frogs. And so I figured that's probably it. So I don't know why I didn't think of this in the beginning, as often happens with me. I don't figure things out until later. That should have been common sense. I decided this afternoon, well, I might as well switch the tanks. Switch them to the different tank. I'll still have only 2 tanks to maintain because I'm making this 10-gallon one into the plant tank, which won't take, much work really compared to maintaining fish tanks with livestock. So I'll have basically the shrimp tank, which is very easy to maintain, and the 20-gallon long for the frogs and the catfish and the otocinclus. Much more room, less bio load. Well, not less bio load, but it can handle the bio load of the catfish and the frogs and the otos much more easily. So I spent the afternoon, later part of the morning and the afternoon, doing this. So what I did was, first thing I did was empty out this tank of the decor and the plants, and finally the catfish and the frogs, which have been in this little pail in the afternoon while I was preparing this. And then what I did was I totally emptied out this. There wasn't much to empty out because all it was basically was water and the little dishes for the plants. But emptying this one out was a bit more involved because I had to first empty what I could out so I could more easily catch these guys, and then take out the gravel. All the meantime trying to keep the different filters in tank water so the bacteria doesn't die off. So it's kind of tricky, but I finally did this. They have a lot more room, and I just now tested the water, and it's an instant cycle. What I did was I switched. This is a sponge filter with canisters of media, but also it's a power pump, so I don't have to have it hooked up to an air pump. And this one I had originally in the shrimp tank, which actually doesn't require a whole lot of filtration, as shrimp don't have a big bio load. I do have neon cardinal tetras in there, but they don't have much of a bioload either. But I did use one of these canister sponge filters that I had. And this one just has a little sponge filter. Where is it? Double sponge filter with canisters in the back. But it's not as crucial because you're not having to get rid of ammonia from creatures. Okay, so I just tested the water, and there's 0 ammonia now, back to what it should be. No nitrites and no nitrates, so everything's all set. And the water is heated up to 74, and there's the heater back there, and there's the sponge filter, and we've got a lot of space. I also planted some jungle val and these two, I think it's the Sagittarius, the larger dwarf sag, which I had in the shrimp tank. So, pretty cool, I think. And got all my floating water lettuce, which helps keep the nitrates down, and the frogs sometimes like to hide under the leaves. But we will see. I'm going to put them in now. Okay, this makes a lot more sense. I don't have to worry about there being too much bioload and getting ammonia spikes, which is not good for fish or creatures. Okay, let's put these guys in. Okay, I put them in. They're hard to catch. The hardest to catch are the catfish and the otos. The frogs weren't that hard to catch. Here's a little baby frog right there in front of the rock. And then there's some catfish in the back corner. Some catfish up here, and oto. A couple of otos in this corner. The otos are the skinny ones. They're really good at cleaning up algae. Couple of catfish here. Aren't they pretty? Let's see if I can get a... These are called smudge spot catfish, or violet cories, but they make me think of speckled trout. There's a baby in the back there. Let's see if you can see him. Yeah, right back there. I do have 4 baby froglets. It was hard to see them in the other tank because 2 of them usually hid pretty well, so they never came out. But there's one of the adults. You guys see a reflection of one of the adults under the filter, or to the side of the filter there. Oh, there's one of, well, at first I thought that was one of the babies. That's just a floating leaf. It's one of the catfish. They're so beautiful. They're called smudge spot because of near the tail there. There's that darkish spot. Catfish tend to stay together. Here's 4 of them right in the front there. Oh, there's a baby. See him right next to that rock, right on the rock. But since this is a much larger tank, there's much more open expanse and I can see them more. Whereas in the other one, the quarters were very, very close. The plants and the driftwood and everything were so close together, it was easier for them to hide and not be seen. I'm hoping this jungle val grows well and the dwarf sage just from the poop of the creatures here as fertilizer, because I keep reading not to use any kind of liquid fertilizers or root tabs or anything in a tank with frogs, as their skin absorbs chemicals very easily and it could kill them, so I don't want to take the chance. Here's one of the babies at the dwarf sage there. There's the baby near the filter. I'm really surprised and grateful that nothing has happened to these babies. They're so tiny compared to everybody else, especially the adult frogs. And so I was afraid that the adult frogs would harass them or try to eat them, but that hasn't happened. Either they're very good at hiding or the adult frogs don't have an interest in trying to eat these little guys. I hope they grow quickly. But the catfish are very friendly creatures. They're not aggressive as far as I can tell in my experience. And the odos too. This is an odosynclus. So hopefully everybody will get along really well here. Here's a aquarium stocking calculator online, and I used it just to kind of see whether or not this 20-gallon long will be sufficient. So the first screen is where you input the size tank you have and the capacity of the filter that you have. This screen shows where you input the livestock that you're going to put in your tank. And what I did was, for the frogs, I have 2 adults and 4 teeny tiny frogs, but I input that I have 6 adult frogs, because eventually they will grow into adult size, and so I want to see if this tank will still support them at that point. This is the final screen that shows what their calculations show and gives you a summary of what they think of your tank. What kind of temperature range you should probably have, what kind of pH range you should have in the water. And here's what mine says. You have plenty of aquarium filtration capacity, so that's good. Your aquarium filtration capacity for the above selected species is 286%. That means I have over twice, almost 3 times as much filtration capacity as I actually need. Never hurts to have more than you need. Water change schedule, they recommend 30% water change per week, which is kind of what I tend to do anyway. And that my aquarium stocking level is 72%, which means 72% of the tank capacity is what my fish and frogs are taking up, as they will when they become adults, actually. So now my stocking level is even less because of the teeny tiny frogs, but they will grow up. And so I'm pretty safe here, and that's kind of a relief that this will support them in the future. Okay, it's kind of a cool calculator. It's online.